I recently released a short video created in the lobby of the Northern Star Hotel from Half-Life Alyx. In it, I used several citizen NPCs to simulate an audience and had a headcrab on a piano telling a joke. In this video, I'll go into some details on how I built the scene and how you can do the same thing using Valve's workshop tools. At the end of the video, you'll meet Brad the bartender and learn how I got him to stand patiently behind the bar. I was on the lookout for a new location to create a Headcrab Training video. The one I used last time was based on a modified Valve tutorial. You can ignore the headcrab, he'll just carry on with his scripted sequence. But see how this map is just sort of floating in a void? I wanted something with a lot more character to it, but without having to rebuild from scratch. Hey buddy, I'm busy, we can do the obstacle course later. Here, fetch. One of the most memorable locations for me in Half-Life Alyx is the lobby of the Northern Star, so I decided to see if I could pull it out of the release maps and reuse it. Release maps are located in your Steam directory under Steam Apps, Common, Half-Life Alyx Content, HLVR Maps Release. And you can open them just like any other map. You have to do a bit of guesswork to figure out what file name matches what map, but once you've played through Half-Life Alyx, you can typically work out what map matches what scene in the game by its naming. The game maps are typically composed of several submaps or prefabs, and prefabs are used to break down each level into parts that can be worked on by different developers. This is great for modders as it means that we can pick apart release maps and reuse elements that we like in our own maps. In this case, I was really lucky as the lobby is contained in a prefab called Apartment Stairwell. If you double click on the prefab within the release map, it opens up and grays out the elements that aren't part of the prefab. In the top bar, you get the location of the prefab. Prefabs aren't always this clean, and when you reuse it, there may be missing elements of gameplay, NPC interactions, particle systems, lighting, which are all contained in separate prefabs, but in this case there is enough built into the stairway prefab that it's usable on its own. Next, I'm going to save a copy of this prefab into my add-ons directory so I can modify it. When getting this prefab ready to use, I had to first block off any sections that would have otherwise led the player to another prefab or an area that no longer exists. For this map, all I had to do was block off a few doors. I also moved the player spawn point to the lobby itself. Next, I cleaned the place up a bit and rearranged some elements for my scene. If I compile and run the map, it works pretty well, but it's also very empty, and I want it to feel a little more welcoming. Here's where Brad comes in. Working with citizens in Half-Life Alyx isn't straightforward. If you just drop a Combine soldier and a citizen into a map, the Combine have some default behaviors while the citizens don't. Hey, could you stop that? I'm trying to create a tutorial here. It's fine, just stay alert so I can show your default behaviors. Well, first thing you want to do is make sure that anytime you add a Combine or Zen to your map, you have an associated AI relationship to make sure they don't just attack you out of the blue. Now that he's not going to try and kill me, you can see the Combine wanders around a bit, reacts to noises, and just overall feels a bit alive. Citizens, however, don't seem to have much built in. They breathe and their eyes move a bit, but they don't seem to react much to the environment if I make noise or walk around them. When I started poking around some release maps, I noticed that much of what citizens do are via scripted sequences and trigger. There's a handy NPC prefab you can open in the directory Half-Life Alyx, Content, HLVR, Maps, Release, Prefabs, Choreo, World Intro, Citizen Street, with several citizen examples you can explore to figure out how Valve handles a lot of NPC interactions in Alyx, and also access a few sample scripted sequences to use in your own map. This is where I found Brad. Brad is meant to be leaning on a windowsill, and his whole purpose is to look out his window, get alarmed when he sees something disturbing in the street, and then leave his window. That's it. That's Brad's purpose. Let's copy Brad out of here and into the hotel lobby. Brad is set in a preview animation, and when you are placing citizens in a map, you can use the preview animation to estimate about where they'll appear on the map, assuming that is the animation you will trigger on the map load, which I'll demo shortly. Let's just shorten this NPC name to Brad and move him into place. Now Brad is in place, and lucky for me, the windowsill Brad is meant to be leaning on is about the same height as the bar. The preview animation does not impact what the citizen does when the map loads, as far as I can tell, so I'm going to add a scripted sequence that tells Brad to stay idle. There are some settings here that you can play with, and I'm going to set a few of my preferred settings. I'll start by naming the scripted sequence. I'll set this to target Brad as the NPC for the sequence. You have a lot of animations to choose from, and idle animations are a good place to start if you just want to pose a citizen in a specific spot and have them loop in idle to simulate breathing and reacting a bit to the environment. I'll use the Intro World Citizen Balcony Alarm Idle 2 animation. Now I'm going to remove the pre-action animation because it's not necessary here. I don't want to move the NPC, so I'll set move to position no. If this was set to yes, the NPC would move to where the scripted sequence pink box is. These two settings look fine, so do these. Finally, I want the animation to loop, so Brad stays at the bar for as long as the scene is running. Next, I need a mechanism to trigger the scripted sequence, and for that, I'll use this Logic Auto entity. These Logic Auto entities have outputs that can be wired to scripted sequence inputs. So here I'm going to make a new output. The output will fire on map spawn and trigger the begin sequence input to Brad's scripted sequence. Now if everything is wired up correctly, when we launch the map, we'll find Brad waiting for us at the bar. In the next video, I'll demonstrate how to get a headcrab to tell a joke from on top of a piano and add in the rest of the NPCs. Thanks for watching. You can check out my growing library of Half-Life Alyx workshop tools tutorials in the linked playlist, and feel free to ask questions about any of the things you see in these videos. Good luck with your Half-Life Alyx maps and mods.